The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to the Bristol Motor Speedway here for the 8th round of the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series right here on iRacing Live and LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Cisco Scaramuza, and alongside me, well, not really alongside me, I'm down the production truck. They gave me a mic. And up in the booth, meanwhile, is Brian Macklin. James Pike currently trying to be let back into the track. We're trying to work on that right now, but Brian, here we are, the last great Coliseum. We already know what's going to happen here, Brian. Train paint, taking names, short track racing at its finest.
Well, first things first, I want to know why they let you have a microphone. It's always scary whenever we let you talk, so I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there real quick. But yeah, back to the racing. This is going to be an awesome race here tonight. You've got about 37 drivers here at Bristol Motor Speedway getting ready to put on a 225-lap race. Qualifying is underway right now, and Anthony DeBarro is sitting at the top of the board with a very fast lap of a 14.896. It was a little bit slower than the fastest lap we saw in practice, which was ran by Stefan Marinak. He ran a 14.773. Unfortunately, though, Cisco, he was not able to back that time up, as Stefan Marinak sits 13th right now with a 15.05. So he really lost a lot of time in qualifying compared to what he ran in practice.
Yeah, and that's probably coming into the rubber that's being led onto the track. But before we get too far into the qualifying order, take a look at your point standings right now. As of right now, we have 5 drivers locked into the chase for the championship thus far. David Washington, 3 wins. He got them all in a row here, back to back to back for Washington. David Comstock got the win 1 week ago, I believe. Dylan Jones, he is able to get into the chase with his locked-in win. Trevor Roppolo also locked in with a win. And Adam Benefield, despite running a limited schedule, still 28th in points. He's still eligible with the chase as he's in the top 30 with a win. So he's good. And then from there on back, you got Dwayne Vincent, Nick Silver, Carl Shedd, Brendan Bowie, and Jeff Ward are tied for 10th in points. Then you go to Sean Casto, Stefan Marinak, Mike Kelly, CJ Lavere, Ross Cato, Stephanie Lessentine, and Scott Simley also tied for that last spot to get into the chase on points. So what we'll want to think here, Brian, is, well, if you're one of these guys who's not locked in the win yet, it's going to be hard to get it done here at Bristol. It's a very tough track. But if you're a guy like Anthony DeBarro, you're starting out front, this is a very golden opportunity for you.
Oh, absolutely. And this is a track that DeBarro has ran really well here in the past. I'm pretty sure he's got a couple of victories here at this track in the Full Throttle Cup Series. I would not be at all surprised if he can go out there and get another one here tonight. As far as your chasers, like you mentioned, and the guys that are trying to get in, this is one of those tracks you don't really circle unless you know how to get around this track and you know that you're going to be able to put up a fast lap and get up there and challenge for the win. This is one of the most challenging tracks on the entire schedule, especially now that we have to run up against the wall all the way around this track, lap after lap. It's very tiring mentally to do that, because one little mistake going into the corner, if you misjudge the entry just a little bit, you're going to get up against that wall and it's going to suck you in and you're going to lose a ton of time and you might end up getting caught up in a wreck. So this is going to be a very challenging race all night long. These drivers are going to have to be on their toes from the drop of the green flag until they take the checkered flag if they want to even have a chance to get to the victory tonight.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brian, as we're waiting for qualifying to finish. Just got less than a minute left to go here, and then we'll take a look at your starting grid. But coverage of the Real Sim Racing Full Throttle Cup Series tonight is brought to you by Joe Real Timing. And they are the official timing sponsor of LSRTV. And you can pick up a copy of Joe Real Timing today for free at www.joel-real-timing.com, or you can look into the pro version, which will get you some more toys to play with that. But we use that here to help us commentators see what's on the track. It can help with you as far as fuel strategy goes, all sorts of different bobs and boobs. that software can do so. I highly recommend checking them out today. www.joel-real-timing.com. But as qualifying comes to an end here, Brian, we're going to take a look at your LSRTV starting grid.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Anthony DeBarro is going to take that pole for tonight. He's going to take that with a 14.896. And his outside, we have a rookie for Aegis Motorsports, Andrew Freenar, starting in the number 47 machine. He starts P2 here tonight. Then you have Daniel Eberhardt. He's been fast pretty much everywhere they go. He starts third. Then we have Colson Bermudez in fourth. And then Carl Shedd, another one of those Aegis drivers, he starts fifth.
Starting 6 is going to be the 89 at Jeff Ward. Then right behind him is Joseph Tice in the number 5. And to his outside is Aegis teammate, the number 11 of Dylan Jones. 9th is going to go to David Washington. So you got 3 Aegis guys. Well, 4 are really in a cluster right there. They're making kind of a T-block on the track. And then rounding out your top 10 is going to be Lionel Kalisto.
Shane Ewing will start in the 11th position here tonight. Then we have Eric Arnold starting 12th. Stefan Marinak will start 13th. Again, he was fastest in practice. He's definitely got a good car. Got to keep an eye on him throughout the race. Then we have Sean Casto starting 14th. And then 15th, we have Bruce Ackerman starting in that 15th position.
And then 16th is going to be David Comstock. 17th is going to be Nick Silver. 18th will go to Corbin Himstreet. 19th is going to go to the 41 at Thomas J. George. And 20th, rounding out your top 20, is going to be Scott Welter in the 28.
Ross Cato starts in the 21st position, and then Brandon Bowie starts 22nd. I think this is probably one of his worst qualifying efforts on the season. Going to have to keep an eye on him and see how he does trying to make his way up through the field. 23rd goes to Keith Medeiros. Then we have Scott Simley in 24th, and Nelson Rivera is 25th.
26 is going to be the 34, Sean Boundy. 27th will be CJ Lavere. AJ Browning is going to be 28th. 29th going to go to Austin Coop. 30th is going to go to Trevor Roppolo.
We have just 3 more drivers that took a time here tonight. Mike Kelly starts 31st. Then we have John Abbott in 32nd. And the last car to take a time tonight, Steve Gottschalk, is 33rd. The rest of these drivers all took a provisional here tonight. We have Dwayne Vincent, Stephanie Lessentine, Jeffrey Creek, and Doug Roth. That rounds out your 37-car field here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. And Cisco, this is going to be an exciting, action-packed race. We have 225 laps around this half-mile bull ring, and it is going to be absolutely insane from lap 1 to lap 225.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Let's take a look at your track facts here tonight for the Bristol Motor Speedway. Built in 1961, the track is 0.533 miles long. That's about 0.8 in kilometers there. You got a banking of about 30 degrees here, and your pit road speed will be 30 miles an hour. And of course, that pit road always a little bit confusing for some people who aren't very familiar with the Bristol Motor Speedway, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very confusing track if you're not really familiar with it, because it looks identical on both ends of the track. Front stretch, back stretch, turns 1 and 2, 3 and 4, it's all the same. There's really no differences at all around this track, and it's going to be very interesting to see once they get up to speed here who can make the bottom work, because this track, while in the Monster Energy Cup Series they had the resin at the bottom of the track to give them some grip going around, we don't have that here on iRacing. These guys are going to have to go down there at their own risk, more so than anything, Cisco, because there's not going to be any grip down there compared to the top.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Brian. But the iRacing first Ford Mustang pace car is going to get set to make its left-hand turn on the pit road here. We're going to see Anthony DeBarro lead the field here. There it goes, the Mustang on the pit road. Anthony DeBarro on the loud pedal. Green flag is in the air, and we're racing here from Bristol Motor Speedway.
Anthony DeBarro shot out of a cannon on the initial start of that race, and he's going to get away that. But however, Daniel Eberhardt also got a really good restart. He started in 3rd, and already he's up to 2nd. He moves ahead of Andrew Freenars, and he now sets his sights on the race leader. He got a great run. We have one slow on the front stretch there. Didn't see it. Now Freenars is getting sideways in the middle of turns 1 and 2. He saves it, goes down to the apron, somehow manages to hang on. However, he's going to lose a ton of track position as he's back around Sean Casto right now as he's trying to get back in line on the outside line. Freenars just went from 3rd all the way back to 12th in just a half a lap, and now he's trying to get in line. He's going to slot up in front of David Comstock, but Cisco, that could have been a very scary moment. He was running 3rd in front of this 37 car field. That could have been a huge wreck if he wasn't able to hang on.
Yeah, and he did a great job of saving that car there, Brian. Meanwhile, battle right in front of him. Stefan Marinak down on the bottom side in that Camry. Really sticking out today. He's got the Florida Gators colors, that very, very sticking out green there. You see in the 25, and he's actually going to get a little bit loose there. But Brian, he's trying to make that bottom side work, and well, I don't think it's going to work right now. The tires are a little too new. That top side is where you want to be, as high as you can go on there, but you're absolutely right about the 47. He's fallen back in the line. He's been able to hold on to the car. So you lost the 47 there, but the 96, well, the PowerTech cars aren't out of his mirror yet, because take a look at that 90 of Daniel Eberhardt. If we had to count last season how many times Daniel Eberhardt and Anthony DeBarro went at it, well, I think we'd run out of fingers at that point, because those guys, this is a very long rivalry, and it cooled because both these guys didn't start out the season in this series. However, they're both back now. Go figure, one returns, the other has to return. Can't have Joker without the Batman, right?
Absolutely, and back to your point about how many times they had a rivalry last year, I don't think we would have enough fingers or toes to count how many times these guys were battling it out week in and week out last year. And here we are once again. They are 1-2, and Eberhardt, he's really getting a good run from the center off the corner. It looks like right now he's backing the corner up and really getting a strong run off the corner. You see he's able to close right in on the back bumper of DeBarro every time coming off the corner. The problem is, as you've already mentioned, Cisco, you can't go to the bottom, and we have a caution here at Bristol. On lap number 9, we have our first caution of the night. Not sure exactly what happened. There's a big pileup on the front stretch, several cars around. Looks like the number 41 machine of Thomas George is involved, along with a host of other drivers. So a big wreck here on lap number 9.
Yeah, and we're going to take a look at the replay here in a moment, and we'll actually be able to ask the guy who just dodged that wreck. He was coming through the stands right when that happened, so we'll have to see if he got a look at it walking up the grandstands there, James Pike. But just calamity at Bristol, and honestly, are we that surprised? It's Bristol. Once a small wreck breaks down, as you see the 5 get tagged by the 97, there's nowhere to go here.
This is a track that is so small that if you have an incident like that, especially on the front straight where it all narrows up a little bit because of the pit walls, you will see cars stop on track to avoid it, as we just did a few moments ago. So racing room is definitely at a premium here. And I think it's a little bit trickier than some of the other short tracks that we go to, just because you're going so much faster relative to the size of the track than you would at, say, a Martinsville or a Richmond. This track has been likened to flying a fighter plane in a high school gymnasium. It is that kind of crazy. We heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. say on the radio broadcast a few hours ago today that it takes you a few laps to kind of get adjusted to how to react to things and get your reaction time and your abilities just on that level that you need to compete, Brian. And sometimes it ends up being a little bit trickier than you normally think.
Well, absolutely, and it's like I mentioned before the race started, this is such a mental track in the sense that you're running a couple inches off the wall all the way around this track, and if you make one mental mistake going into the corner, if you just miss the corner by an inch going into the corner, it's going to potentially ruin your whole night, because you'll get caught up against that wall, and if somebody behind you is not able to check up, it can really cause a problem and could potentially end your night. So you have to be very careful here throughout the entire night. This track reminds me, I know it's a completely different track, but it reminds me a lot like Darlington now, the way we have to race it, in the sense that you are constantly on alert and having to be so close to the wall in order to make speed. You really can't make any mistakes, and that's exactly how it is at Darlington. If you get up against the wall there, you're more than likely going to tear up your car, and that's what we're seeing now here at Bristol.
Well, while we roll under yellow and we see cars still trying to sort themselves out from that last wreck, we'll take a moment to remind you that tonight's broadcast of the Full Throttle Cup Series is brought to you by RealSimRacing.com. RealSimRacing.com has a league for every iRacing driver, including the Winston Cup Series on Wednesday nights and the Midnight Thunder Speedway Series on Thursday nights. For more information, you can visit www.RealSimRacing.com. So, currently working lap 14, 2:25 to be run this evening. Anthony DeBarro leads from the pole. No big surprises there. Just still trying to sort everything out and trying to make it all happen, Brian, before we can get back under green.
Yeah, it looks like they're having a little bit of a scoring issue right now, trying to get everybody lined up, but we should be going back green here in just a moment. Looks like the pace car did turn the lights off this time, so we're going to go back in about a half a mile as these guys do double up here once again. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens on this restart. I know you weren't here for it, James, because you were having some issues, but at the beginning of this race, we saw Anthony DeBarro get a launch going into turn 1. He was able to get away by about 4 car lengths over the rest of this field, and Daniel Eberhardt was restarting in third. he was able to do just the same thing. Now Eberhardt's on the outside and Jeff Ward's going on the bottom. We're gonna have to wait and see if Jeff Ward can get the same launch that Eberhardt got on the first start.
I'll blame the long line at the concession stand for that, but we can fix it now. So here we go, green flag out. Tabarro comes in. I've got my Coke in hand, and I'm all set to go for this. So he'll jump off, get maybe a car length and a half to Eberhardt. Then they're side by side. You have to go back to about fifth. It's the 52 of Sean Casto and the 40 of David Comstock, winner last week at Martinsville, that are racing there for sixth and fifth as we come through the second lap after this restart.
And how about David Comstock? He started in the 16th position. We've got 17 laps on the books, and he's already climbed up into the top 5. Martinsville winner indeed, but this might be another track he can go up there and try to get another victory, as he's already marching his way fast to the front. He got away from Sean Casto, and now he's trying to close in on Eric Arnold, who is in 4th right ahead of him. You see Eric, he was running the bottom in 1 and 2. This time he goes up to the top side in 3 and 4. Looked like he was just exploring a little bit, seeing if he could find some grip down on the bottom. I don't think you're going to see very many people make that work right now, but if we get a long green flag run, James, I imagine we might see some of these guys be able to go to the bottom and make a little bit of time, because, as Eric Arnold gets into the wall right there, as these tires wear out and the track heats up, James, the bottom line is going to find a little bit of grip. And we have a battle for the lead up front. Here we go. Daniel Eberhardt and Anthony DeBarro off too.
They're looking for it. Eberhard tried to go underneath. I think it's a question of how hard do you want to push the issue at this moment, because you can run the bottom for maybe 5 to 10 laps, but you will burn up your tires and really put yourself in a bind if we get a long green flag run. So have to watch and see what happens. But Eberhard, for the time being, isn't going to make any move yet. Jeff Ward's also settled nicely into a little groom in 3rd, but I think that might be more because Arnold's really struggling in that 4th position, doing everything he can to hold off Comstock, but that 31 car is just not handling well at the moment in the run.
Yeah, and what's happening right now is he's creating a bottleneck because he's holding up David Comstock, which is allowing Sean Casto and a host of other drivers right behind him, Nick Silver, Colson Bermudez. All of these drivers are closing in as Comstock slides to the bottom of the racetrack trying to make the inside line work. He got the run off the corner. Is he able to slide up in front of him in the middle of 3 and 4? Not yet. He's going to stay on the bottom, but it looks like, he almost got clear of him in the middle of the corner. He's got to stay on the bottom here, and then once again, he slides up, but is just not able to make that move and clear the 31 of Eric Arnold. This is how challenging it is here at Bristol to make that bottom line work when there's so much momentum and so much speed on the outside line. And now Comstock's got to be careful, James, because he's got 4 cars lined up on the outside line. Sounds kind of like Talladega, but if he gets stuck down on the inside line, they're just going to train him back, and he's going to lose a lot of time here and a lot of track position.
I think he's very thankful on some level that, and I guess a little bit angry too, because he definitely wants to get past Arnold, but Arnold was setting a pick for him. Had Arnold not been there, it would have been big trouble. But guess what? We've got a yellow flag out, so get a feeling there was big trouble elsewhere on track. Hearing now that it is the 69 car of Corbin Hemstreet. Big trouble for him, and we'll show you the replay here momentarily, Macklin, but trouble for Corbin early in this event.
Yeah, and actually now that I'm looking at it, that happened ahead of him. That happened between the number 20 of AJ Browning and the number 19 of Bruce Ackerman. They made contact in the middle of the corner, and that just set up a chain reaction event that led to Corbin Hemstreet getting turned sideways as he was trying to slow down. He just kind of got turned into it and endured the number 20 machine. I don't think Corbin's car is too bad off, but AJ Browning took a heavy lick to the inside wall, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to continue. His car has got some pretty heavy smoke coming out of it right now. Not really sure. Also, it looks like the number 19 of Bruce Ackerman's got some issues there as well. And we have a little bit of a recreational stuff going on here, as the 19 and 20 are now having a little bit of an issue under caution.
That's interesting. Interesting to note also that Bruce Ackerman has officially thrown his hand up and said he was the cause of that per race control. So we'll see if that factors into what's going on over there. But yeah, few afters after that incident. Few people that aren't necessarily happy to have run into each other, it seems like. But hey, that's Bristol. That happens every once in a while. You get this gigantic mess of a field coming together, and everybody's just got not a lot of room to work with. People are naturally going to tangle, and tempers will flare. That's short track racing for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hashtag it's Bristol, baby. And that's what we just saw right there. These guys are already starting to get fired up. We're just 29 laps into this race, and we're already seeing that type of excitement going on. Just imagine as we get closer to the end of the race what's going to happen here at the front. I imagine these two at the front, Anthony DeBarro, Daniel Eberhardt, they remember how many exciting battles they had last year I'm sure they want to live up to that standard and have another exciting battle here tonight at the Bristol Motor Speedway. They've been doing a good job so far, having a lot of clean racing at the front. But as we get closer to the end of this thing, I imagine that's going to go away.
See how that goes, and we'll take a moment now to remind you that coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking is brought to you tonight by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Get it today at joel-real-timing.com. So, working lap 30. Just kind of sorting things out here, Brian, and we'll try and get everything lined up for you here, but get the sense we're not too far away from another green flag.
Yeah, I believe we're going to see the lights go off on the pace car this time by, and you'll see this field double back up and get ready to go back racing. We still have just shy of 200 laps left in this race, though, so we have a lot of racing left to be done. I think we're going to see a pretty good battle here at the front. We're once again going to see Daniel Eberhardt restart on the outside line. The last time he was able to make that work, and he didn't lose any time like we saw at the initial start of the race. So maybe he's got a little bit something figured out that the number 47 machine didn't, but he definitely did all right there. And now look at David Comstock. He's already moved up to 4th. Once again, he started this race back in 16th, so he is slowly but steadily marching his way to the front.
Comstock putting it together on the short tracks as he has done over the course of his career in the Full Throttle Cup Series. So I can't say I'm totally surprised, but pace car peels off. Green will come out. DeBarra will take off, get a good jump here, and Jeff Ward came right behind him and got a really nice restart. Might be able to slide up right in front of Eberhardt. He tried as best he could, but Eberhardt read that beautifully and just went under with the crossover on the exit of turn 2. So those two are going to be side by side. DeBarra is going to jump out to about a 5 or 6 car lead, but Ward will get it. Ward clears Eberhardt. Eberhardt drops back a little bit. Jeff Ward to P2 here on lap 33.
Yeah, and meanwhile, everybody at the top 5 or 6 is single file. You've got to go back to the number 14 of Colson Bermudez and number 31 of Eric Arnold. Eric Arnold was on the bottom. He was inside of Colson Bermudez. He fell back. Now Bermudez moves to the inside of Nick Silver, trying to take that 6th position away from the Hot Wheels machine. Down on the bottom of the racetrack, he's got the number 11 of Dylan Jones right behind him as well. Looks like Bermudez has a little bit of something figured out on the bottom as he's really making it work. He slides up in front of Silver, almost puts Nick in the wall, somehow manages to keep it off of him, and he will take that 6th position and now sets his sights on Sean Castro. We're back under caution here at Bristol.
Yellow, yellow, yellow. I saw it just as it was happening. Eric Arnold got into someone. I couldn't tell who exactly it was. I saw that car get loose on the high side on the exit of turn 2, and he just couldn't save it in time. Came down, as you'll see the replay here. He came down and spun and caught another car, and everybody just kind of started wrecking on the back straight away from that point onward, Brian.
Yeah, he got a clip of the number 51 machine of Keith Medeiros, turned him around, and just one of those deals. And then we saw another little incident after the wreck was over. Keith Medeiros was not happy, and he showed his displeasure with the number 31 machine of Eric Arnold. So tempers again flaring here at Bristol.
Tempers flaring, and while they get that sorted out, we will go to our first commercial break of the evening. You are watching the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Welcome back to coverage of the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV. Got our one to go here, and we're going to get the restart on lap 41 at Bristol Motor Speedway. Anthony DeBarro and Jeff Ward, your top two drivers here at the moment. Then you've got Daniel Eberhardt, David Comstock, and Sean Casto, your top five, as we get set to get the green flag. Pace car peels off one more time. DeBarro launches in a really, really good restart from that WinView Games number 96 Chevrolet SS. Car length, maybe a car length and a half before they get to turn two. Meanwhile, Ward slides up the track a little bit. I think he got tight on corner entry, and Eberhardt is able to pull the under to the top side. Moving contact. Ward's in the wall. Comstock checks up behind him. This should be another yellow flag, and big, big trouble at the front of the field, and Jeff Ward just... oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, that was a bit of a mess, Brian. Take us through the replay.
Well, that all started going off into turn three. It looks like Comstock just drove into the corner a little too deep, got into the back of Jeff Ward. Jeff was not able to save it, and then a few more cars piled in. Looks like Trevor Rapallo piled in, and a couple other drivers. Unfortunately, when you have a wreck like that happen at the front of the field, it's very hard to get checked up and be able to avoid contact, and for several of those drivers, they just had nowhere to go. But how about some good moves by Sean Casto? I saw him get through very cleanly, almost got caught up in it. But then also the number 32 machine of Shane Ewing. I don't know how he managed to avoid that. I think he got a little bit of damage on the right rear, but other than that, his car is clean. He got very lucky right there.
You mentioned the Talladega Daytona comparison earlier, and you think about it on the surface, those are two completely different tracks, and you wonder how on earth you could ever see similar aspects of racing at both places. But in this sense, you're not wrong. When you get everybody bunched up here and a wreck happens at the front of the field, the sort of chain reactions that create the big ones at Daytona and Talladega happen to some degree also here. So you end up with a wreck like you just did, where people in second, third, fourth get into it and start wrecking, especially when we've had one established groove that most everybody's been running in for the majority of this race, and it can be really, really hard to get out of it and get away from things. So, yeah, I think you're right. Credit to Casto for finding a way around that mess and preserving his fifth place run.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's going to be able to stay up in the top five. One thing I am very surprised at so far is we are 44, almost 45 laps into this race, and none of the race leaders have been to pit road for tires or fuel at this stage. I know fuel is not an issue at this point. They can go about 130 laps on a tank of gas around here, but I would have thought after at least a 7 or 8 or 9 lap run like we've had, these guys would want to come in and get tires, but I guess they feel track position is more important than the speed and the tires right now, and that's what we have seen all of these guys do for the most part here. I don't think anybody inside the top 10 has been to pit road except for Comstock, who's getting some damage fixed.
I think that if you're one of the spotters here, you look at all the racing that's gone down, especially I think in the back half of the top 10 on restarts. Everybody there has been pretty aggressive all night, and you've seen a lot of side-by-side racing in the first 2 to 3 laps after a green flag. We've seen that lead to incidents in yellows. If I'm a spotter, I look at that and I say, it's not worth putting my driver back into that. If I have the track position either at the front of the field or maybe even towards the back, you can also choose to ride out back and make things work that way as well. So, but I think you don't want to be in the center of the storm, because that's just been the worst spot for a lot of these guys tonight. Most of the folks that have had damage and are already out of this race have been stuck at that and caught up in accidents because they've been there in the center of the action where everything's going down.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly. We are about to go back green, though, as these guys are doubled up once again. Anthony DeBarro on the inside, Daniel Eberhardt on the outside. Then we have Colson Bermudez in third, Dylan Jones is in fourth, Sean Casto is fifth, and then we have Shane Ewing in sixth. Pace car ducks to the safety of pit road. DeBarro's on the gas once again. This time, Eberhardt almost timed it. Looked like he might have timed it. He's to the outside of DeBarro as they go through 1 and 2. DeBarro was able to clear him as they come off the corner. Now Eberhardt looks like he might make a move to the bottom. He thinks better of it. Now we have Colson Bermudez trying to climb his way up in there. We've seen him go to the bottom all night, James. He's not afraid to go down there, and here he goes to the bottom, and Eberhardt looks like he got into the back of DeBarro. Somehow it keeps it off the wall, but that allows Bermudez to move into second. He's still fighting on the bottom, though.
Side-by-side battle for second. Bermudez just drove it off deep into the bottom of turn one, and then he got loose on corner exit there. Slipped up a little bit and slides up way high and has to save it from getting into the wall. So big time piece of driving there from Bermudez to save it. But all of that hard racing is going to go for nothing. He'll stay back in third where he was. And after a really good restart and a few looks by some of these drivers up at the front, we start settling into this green flag run. People are starting to get strung out all the way up through the top 7 or 8. It's as you were, Tabarro, Eberhardt, Bermudez, and Jones, your top 4 just as they restarted.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bermudez is settled in on the outside line for right now. I don't think he's going to stay there, though, James, because he has been going to the bottom of the track since the drop of the green flag of this race 51 laps ago. He has not been afraid to go down there, and I think if he gets enough of a run and can get to Eberhardt, he's going to go back down there again and try to make it happen. Right now, though, you can throw a blanket over the top 4. They are bumper to bumper all the way around this racetrack. Eberhardt looks like he's really getting through the middle of the corner better than Tabarro, but right now Tabarro is getting off the corner better than him, and it also looks like Bermudez is getting off the corner better than Eberhardt right now. So I think if I'm his spotter or maybe his crew chief, I'd be telling him to back the corner up just a little bit and try to get the run off the corner, because right now he's getting beat on corner exit, and that's not going to get him the race lead at this point.
I saw a very slight shift going through 3 and 4 that last time by from Eberhardt. I think he did back his corner up just a little bit, as you said, but won't matter because we've got another yellow flag here, and that will bunch the field back up one more time. Replay will come to you momentarily. And Brian, the rash of early cautions here, as we hear it's the 68 of Scott Simley responsible for this yellow, seems to have continued.
Yeah, Scott Simley got turned by the number 98 machine of David Washington coming off the corner. Looks like Simley had to check up a little bit because he was getting a little tight on corner exit, and when he did, Washington had nowhere to go, and he just kind of ran into the back of him, kicked him sideways. And then we did see another car. It looks like Sean Boundy in the number 34 machine. He also got turned around on the front stretch, and he made a little bit of contact with the inside wall. Actually, he made pretty heavy contact with the inside wall, so his night is in jeopardy as well. We do have leaders on pit road, though, James, for the first time tonight. Anthony Tabarro and the rest of the leaders are on pit road looking for tires and fuel.
Hunting for it. Looks like everybody got into the stall clean, so it's just going to be a matter of how fast these pit crews get the job done on pit road and how quickly they can get their driver back onto the racetrack. You see Tabarro starting to pull away. He's going to get away clean. Then Eberhardt, Bermudez, Dylan Jones comes up, and then Sean Casto. Looks like he was the 5th car off pit road, so clean stats for everybody. Nothing too crazy on this first round, and just kind of as you were. And I think we're very much in a spot where, especially if you're one of the first 5 drivers, you just want a long green flag run and you just want to be able to stretch this out. I think your goal is to try and put a few cars a lap down so that you don't have that many cars to race with on the lead lap. If you can get cars knocked a lap down, it makes the field that you're actually fighting with for the race win a lot smaller. And I think especially here at Bristol, a lot more manageable as the race progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. And one driver that's going to be facing an uphill climb here at this point is Nick Silver. He missed his pit box coming into the pit road there for those pit stops, and he had to come back down. And as of right now, he's being scored in the 15th position. He was running 6th prior to the pit stop, so that's a big loss of track position for the number 24 machine. And to keep up to date with his progress, trying to come back through the field, see if he can do what we saw Kyle Larson do today in the Monster Energy Cup Series. He had that speeding penalty, and James, he marched his way back through the field and made it look easy. I think he would have liked to have gotten back to Jimmy Johnson, but he still had a really good run.
Also kind of in that boat right now, the points leader, David Washington, who got caught up in that last yellow, took the cause on that from race control as well. So he's going to have a little bit of a fight back to come through. So we're sorting through scoring here, trying to figure out exactly where he is, but could be a tricky night for him. But you just got to make sure, I think, if you're in the back, it's the same story every short track you go to. Patience, patience, patience. Your time will come, especially if you know you've got a car that's good enough. You just have to make sure that you don't do anything to knock yourself out, because it's a lot easier at these short tracks to lose a race by getting yourself into an incident than it is to win it in one single action.
Oh, absolutely. And as this field doubles up once again, we do have one driver that stayed out. Stefan Marinak is going to be the race leader He's going to have control of this lead, and for the first time tonight, Anthony DeBarro will not be the control car. He's going to have to restart on the outside line. It's going to be very interesting to see how he's able to control that and get up through the gears without having the decision of when he's going to go. He's going to have to wait on the number 25 machine to make that move, so he's going to start second. Then we have Eberhardt in third, Colson Bermudez fourth, and Dylan Jones in fifth. Here we go, James.
A new face now up at the front of the field, and a new paint scheme this weekend for Stefan Marinac as well. Traded out the Flash that you've seen him with in the first races of the year for Albert the Gator from the University of Florida, who will be the first car to cross the stripe and take the restart. A decent one from Marinac, but not quite enough to block off DeBarro, who will go to the top side. Fresher tires, make it happen. Should get the lead here as they come off four. Yes, so he goes, and Colson Bermudez will follow to second. He got around Eberhardt on that restart. So DeBarro to first, Bermudez to second, Marinac dropping back quickly with the old tires on the bottom.
Yeah, and he's still on the bottom. He's fighting off Dylan Jones right now, but it's not going to be much of a fight as he loses that position and now is going to try to get up in front of Sean Castro, and he will, so he's going to fall back to fifth for the time being. Meanwhile, back at the front, here comes Colson Bermudez with a big run off turn two. He closes right up on the rear bumper of Anthony DeBarro, and now he looks like he's going to try to make that move off turn four. He gets another great run right on the back bumper of DeBarro. He gets such a good launch off the corner. It is incredible how much speed he carries from the center off. He's just got to be able to get that and make that move to the bottom of the racetrack. But you see, once again, he's able to get that launch off the corner. It's only a matter of time before we see this 14 car make the move for the lead.
Or force a mistake from DeBarro. That's the big thing. You saw DeBarro run it a little bit high in 1 and 2 that last time by. So have to watch and see what Bermudez does. But no doubt the driver of the number 14 Oakley Ford Fusion is putting the pressure on the leader. So just going to have to see how DeBarro handles it. And in the meantime, you might have a battle for third shaping up before too long, because all of a sudden Dylan Jones is up as high as he's been in this race. Up to this point, as you see a little bit of a wiggle for Bermudez there, so maybe we'll have a battle for second here. But that top four bunched together, it's no more than maybe about 8 car lengths from DeBarro to Jones. If any one of them makes a mistake, I would imagine the drivers behind will pounce almost immediately.
Yeah, absolutely. Much like the run before this last caution, you can throw a blanket over the top four. That's how close they are running around this racetrack right now. And as you mentioned, one mistake, and these guys are going to pounce like a tiger to try to take that position away. These guys right now have kind of gotten away from the rest of the field. Of course, Stefan Marinac is in fifth. He's on the older tires, but he's done a really good job at settling in. He's holding off Sean Castro. He's got about a 4/10 advantage over Sean Castro right now. So we're seeing that the tires, while they weren't good enough to hold off the race leaders, he's not going to make out too badly. He was running outside the top 10 when he decided to make that move. So if he can maintain this for another 15 or 20 laps and then get lucky enough to have another caution that brings everybody to pit road, he's going to be a winner when this is all said and done, because he's going to have gained quite a bit of track position.
Yeah, I was about to say Marinac's looking like a pretty smart key for being able to pull it off. But I think the key when you pull a strategy like that is all about when you're able to jump back into the racing groove, because it's a little bit easier to block if you can stay up in that high line and you're where you need to be. And sometimes, you know, you can get aggressive and make your hole there, and sometimes you can get a lucky break. But either way, Marinac found that hole, and since he dropped back to fifth a few laps after the restart, he has very comfortably held that spot. So this could be a really, really big move for Stefan Marinac, and it makes me wonder, if you're any of the other crews watching this race and seeing what he's done, do you attempt to try it yourself on the next caution and the next round of pit stops to try and gain that same amount of track position? He did. He started in 13th when we took the green flag tonight, up 8 spots, primarily due to a really nice call on pit road. Or awful, I suppose.
Yeah, I think this is something that the rest of the teams are going to be looking at, because he didn't lose a ton of track position. Like you mentioned, he was able to get up in line. But even with that, he's not been holding anybody up. He's able to maintain his ground, and he's actually pulled away from some of these guys that are on fresher tires. So I definitely think if you're one of these other teams that maybe around that 10th position or somewhere on the backside of the top 10, this is something you might think about for the next pit stop, or maybe for later in the race when we get closer to the end. Certainly something these guys are going to be keeping their eyes on. Meanwhile, not really anything has changed at the front. DeBarro's kind of opened up a little bit of a gap. He's got about a 3/10 advantage over Colson Bermudez, but Bermudez, he's still got Eberhardt and Dylan Jones right on his back bumper. They have not given him any room for breathing since the drop of the green flag. Eberhardt is all over him trying to make something happen, trying to make him make that mistake so he can get by him and take that second position back. And James, when you're in a position like this where the bottom doesn't work, that's pretty much the only thing you can do is try to force the guy in front of you into a mistake so you can take that position away. You know you can't go to the bottom and make that move right now, so that's pretty much your only option at this point.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I wonder, especially with Bermudez, if that car might be tightening up over the course of the run. He got loose a few times on corner exit when he was pressuring DeBarro, so I would figure that as the handle goes away, that car might just be coming back towards the center a little bit, might be a little bit easier. But it could also be a matter of Bermudez laying off and not necessarily forcing the issue for the lead at this point. We've got so many laps to go. We're only working lap 79 at the moment. And, you know, you've got 225 to run tonight, so I think maybe not necessarily the worst decision in the world, just to kind of ride it out, especially if you're P2 and you've avoided this opening wave of yellows and you're not in trouble. We're getting to the point now where you can start picking off cars and putting people a lap down. I think it's probably advantageous to everybody in the top 4 here to try and just run together and start clicking off laps and getting the rest of the field a lap down, because if you have less cars to work with on the lead lap, it makes it a little bit easier to fight just 4 cars for the win instead of, you know, say maybe 10 to 15.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, they are starting to work their way through lap traffic, which can be fun here at Bristol. It's a little bit easier having the different grooves to work with as long as the other drivers are willing to give you the preferred line. However, we're not seeing that right now with Trevor Rapallo. He's holding his ground on the outside line, and he's going to force these drivers to go around him on the bottom. DeBarro makes that move pretty easily as he just slide jobs him going into the corner. But that's going to be a little bit more of a challenge for Bermudez, it looks, as he was not able to do that just as easily. He's now still trying to fight with Rapallo, and now it looks like Rapallo's going to heat away. We have a little bit of smoke on the backstretch. I don't know if that's from an accident or somebody that maybe has a blown motor. It looks like it might be a blown motor on David Washington, our points leader. Our points leader is on pit road with a blown motor, so it looks like the damage from his previous incident might have just caused him to be out of this race. He was looking clean. I just went back and looked at it. He's not got any recent contact. That motor just let go.
Damage, I would assume, for the yellow that he was involved in not too long ago, but that could have some implications on the point standings. David Washington was your points leader by 54 coming into tonight, so should be able to hang on to the points lead, but definitely we'll see that margin decrease once we get to the end of this evening. We'll see who's able to take advantage of it. Just trying to scroll quickly and figure out who might be the big winner on points at the moment. And with Dwayne Vincent 2 laps down and David Comstock running into trouble earlier, still trying to make his way back up from it, currently running 14. Dylan Jones is 4th in points and 4th on track. And it looks like if the race were to end now, he would be the big winner as far as points go.
Yeah, absolutely, as he would gain not only on David Washington, but as you mentioned, also on Dwayne Vincent and David Comstock as they run. He'd gain a significant amount on both of them, which is relevant because he's running good week in and week out. However, he does already have a victory in this season, so he's already got himself locked into the playoffs. So at this point, it's more so about wins for him, but definitely if you can get up there and take control of that points lead, it's a big deal as well. You always want to try to be the top dog and get that points lead, so definitely that's something he's got to have his eye on. But these guys are in the middle of a hornet's nest right now. DeBarro's gotten away, but Colson Bermudez and Everhart, Dylan Jones, they are really having a hard time getting through this lap traffic. They were just almost 3 wide at one point trying to get through some of these lap cars, so they're definitely not getting through here as cleanly as DeBarro right now, and that's showing because DeBarro is starting to drive away from these guys.
Just a little bit, and Bermudez's loose car has come back again. Saw him wiggle on the exit of turn 4 there, so just a little bit trickier than you would like to make your way through lap traffic and kind of knife your way through this field. I think that might be the best way to describe it, because you really do kind of have to pick and choose, and I think be selective and commit when you work your way through lap traffic. That's always been the big key in my head when running Bristol. You have to visualize where you're going to go, pick, and then when you find your spot, just commit to it and stick with it. And one car got really, really sideways on corner exit there. Couldn't tell who that was, but we nearly had another yellow on the exit of turn 4 there.
Yeah, I believe that was the number 32 of Shane Ewing had a moment. He was battling with Scott Simley in the 68. They made a little bit of contact. However, the wall stayed the number 32 of Shane Ewing. He did not actually spin out, so we do not have a caution here. We're going to stay green. Anthony DeBarro Very happy about that because he's got such a fast car right now. He doesn't want these guys to get bunched back up. He wants it to stay green for as long as possible. And I just want to take a moment to mention that last week's winner, David Comstock, is the next lead lap car to go a lap down. He's sitting 14th. He's only about 2 seconds ahead of the race leaders right now, so he's in jeopardy of going a lap down here at the Bristol Motor Speedway if we don't get a caution. And we have one sideways. Colson Bermudez has a moment, and we are back under caution here at Bristol. It looks like there was a little bit of contact between Colson and Daniel Eberhardt in the middle of the corner that kicked the 14 sideways, and we're back under caution here at Bristol.
Caution for an incident between the second and third place cars on track. Eberhardt got into the back of Bermudez in the middle of the corner. I think that Bermudez might have gotten loose again, but that's 2 and 3 on track, and Dylan Jones gets caught up and has absolutely nowhere to go. So huge implications at the front of the field. Not to steal Rick Allen's thunder there, but that will shake things up just a little bit, I think, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine we're going to see these guys coming to pit road, and indeed, Anthony DeBarro's coming in. He's got a little bit of a gap over Eberhardt, and then the rest of the field still quite a ways behind, still trying to get caught up to come to pit road. So for DeBarro and Eberhardt, this is going to be pretty smooth sailing. They know they're going to be 1 and 2 coming off pit road. It's just a matter of who gets off first to get the race lead when they come out. Looks like right now Anthony DeBarro has got the advantage. He's getting right side tires done now, getting ready to work on the left side tires. Eberhardt back there as well, getting the left side tires changed right now, and easily Anthony DeBarro is going to win the race off pit road. And then again, Eberhardt comes off second, and we're waiting for the rest of the field to finish their service. Looks like Stefan Marinak will eventually come out here in third, then Sean Casto in fourth.
Well, and also I think we have to make the point too, big winner from that whole incident between Bermudez and Eberhardt has to be Stefan Marinak, who jumps out and is the third car off pit road. So stays out under that last yellow, all of a sudden uses the track position to jump up, and now, Marinak will be third car off pit road with fresh tires and fuel when we get the restart. So big win for the 25 car. We can't understate how big that pit call might be for the driver of the number 25 Toyota Camry.
Well, and not only that, but Stefan Marinak was the fastest car in practice, and he did not get the qualifying lap that he was looking for, so that gave him the opportunity to get the track position, to get back up front. And now with this incident happening in front of him, to take a couple of the faster guys out of this race, he gets that much closer to the front, and now we get to see him on fresh tires, on equal tires with the rest of the race leaders. It's going to be very interesting to see if he can keep pace with DeBarro the way that we saw Eberhardt and Dylan Jones and Colson Bermudez doing. He could be a challenger that we haven't really talked much about yet, just because he didn't have the track position to get up there and race these guys. It's definitely going to be exciting to see what he's able to do.
To see what this car can do will be interesting. Also going to be interesting to see what kind of charge Daniel Eberhardt makes. Went through race control and said that he got into the back of Colson Bermudez, so should get the tail end of the longest line penalty as per RSR Full Throttle Cup Series rules. So we'll see where that puts him once they sort things out. But make no mistake about it, he'll have to drive his way up now to the front of the field.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be very interesting to see. Do you want to take a second to thank our friends over at Hippie's Paint Shop? Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. And they do an amazing job. You see the number 13 of Dwayne Vincent. He is an example of just how good of a job those guys do over there at Hippie's. Definitely worth your time to go talk to those guys, James. They get the job done, and they do an incredible job every single time. You're not going to be disappointed at all.
Going to add another yellow flag lap here, just to try and sort things out. Don't quite have everyone arranged the way that we want to, so going to take a moment just to sort things out and get everybody squared up and lined up the way they need to. As it stands, though, should be DeBarro, then Marinak, then Sean Casto, then Carl Shedd and Mike Kelly, now fourth and fifth. Those are two drivers we haven't spent a lot of time talking about all night long, but they've kept their noses clean for the most part, kept their way out of trouble, and now here they are, and they're going to start fighting for the lead here once we get the green, which should come on lap 104.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, we haven't said a whole lot about them. How about CJ Lovere? He started 27th in this race. He's up there in 7th right now. Another driver that is slowly but surely making his way up. We haven't talked about him in quite a while. He's got an opportunity up here. However, pace car is in, and DeBarro is already gone. He's on the loud pedal, and he gets away. And it looks like Sean Casto in that 4th position got a better restart than the number 25 of Stefan Marinak did. He's able to take that position, move into 2nd, and now he's going to try to jump ahead of these guys, and they're side by side behind him. Mike Kelly and Carl Shedd battling for 4th and 5th. It looks like Carl Shedd's not going to be able to get ahead of Mike Kelly. Now he tries to slot up in front of CJ Lovere, somehow manages to make that stick, and is able to move up in front of him and take that 5th position away. They're now getting single file through most of the top 10 here.
DeBarro was gone off the front of the field off that restart. That might have been the best restart he's had all evening long. Meanwhile, Marinak using the prowess that he's gained by running continuously in the Upstate Racing League, which you can also see here on LSRTV elsewhere in the week. But has a lot of short track experience and is now starting to put that to work, starting to intimidate and get right up on the back of the 52 of Sean Casto, trying to work over the O'Reilly Auto Parts Chevrolet from the 2nd position. Albert's chomping for spots. I think that's about as good as we can put it, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's getting such a good run through the middle of the corner right now. He gives the little shot to Sean Casto down the back straightaway, was not able to make a move for the position, but he definitely let Casto know that he was there, as he was just right up on his back bumper down the back straightaway about a lap ago, still trying to make that move and try to get around Sean Casto, but he's just not able to make the grip that he needs to go to the bottom of the racetrack, and that's just going to make it very challenging for him at this point to try to take that position away. Meanwhile, behind him, we see Mike Kelly the last couple of laps. He's went to the bottom of the track. Looks like he's found a little something. However, it did not work that time as Carl Shedd was able to get to his outside. And it looks like this time Carl Shedd's going to be able to take that position away, which will move him up into the 4th position. And for the first time tonight, we're starting to see Carl Shedd in that Aegis car starting to make their way to the front. That is a team in general that we really haven't talked a whole lot about tonight, is the Aegis group. Other than Eberhard, we really haven't had a lot of action from those guys here tonight.
It's a struggle for Aegis. Also want to point out that Marinak just cleared Sean Casto coming out of turn 2. I couldn't quite tell, but it looked like Casto might have gotten loose. Something happened to the 52 car, but he didn't get off the corner well, slowed up on the straightaway. That allowed Marinak to get underneath the 52, and now it's the 25 that finds himself in 2nd. Shedd now going to hunt down the 52 machine, see if he can go take the 3rd spot away from Casto. Kelly is riding a middle groove there in the 5th spot. A little bit interesting. He's lower than most other drivers in the corner, so we'll see if that ends up playing into or out of his hands if this progresses into a long green flag run. Be curious to see what the tire wear is going to look like on that 2 car over the course of maybe 20-30 laps. But for the moment, currently holds on to the 5th position, and then it's CJ Lovere. You talked about him, came from 27th, and Kelly from 31st. So 2 guys who came up from the back and I guess started from the bottom, if we're going to go ahead and run the Drake cliches here.
Yeah, started from the bottom. Now they're here. Here we go. They're moving up and getting closer to the front with every lap that passes. That is indeed very true. And how about Ross Cato and Nelson Rivera, another couple of guys that started mid-pack. They started 21st and 25th respectively, and they're sitting in 8th and 9th right now, right behind this little gaggle of cars. They're just kind of hanging back there waiting for something to happen to give them an opportunity to move up and try to steal a couple more positions. There's not really a whole lot of action going on inside the top 10. To go back to one of our former front runners, Daniel Eberhard, right now he's battling with David Comstock for that 10th position right now. Comstock has it and Eberhard wants it, but we're seeing for both of these drivers just how hard it is to make their way back to the front, just because this right now is a 1-groove racetrack, and really your only opportunity is to make a pass on the bottom or on the restarts. Other than that, you really have a hard time making those passes, and you see these guys are just fighting their way through. They're trying to get around the lap car of Austin Coop, but Comstock, I almost think he might be holding Eberhard up, but he's not going to pull over and let him go. He's just going to make him work for it.
Yep, that is 4 positions, so I think, you've got every right to do whatever you decide you want to, but saw Comstock get a little bit tight on corner X. I think he might have clipped the wall ever so slightly, and now Eberhard's going to get underneath him and try and make the move happen. Can he get it up top? I don't know if it'll matter, because we have a yellow flag for the 14 of Colson Bermudez. Replay will come momentarily, but trouble now, and it just seems like a night that started off really well for the 14 car is getting worse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just one of those deals, and he was racing with the number 28 of Scott Walter back there. Not really for position. Bermudez was on the lead last. Scott was not, but Bermudez got tight off the corner, got into the wall, and then Scott Walter had nowhere to go and just ran into the back of him and got kicked sideways and hit the inside wall hard. And what was already a rough night just got a little bit worse for Scott. He was already almost 100 laps down, and unfortunately, it's not going to get any better for him.
Coulson came on the radio and said that he just got really tight out of turn 4 and just couldn't get the car wound up in time. So big trouble, though, for the 28 machine, and just a rough night getting rougher for him. But back up at the front of the field, we have cars on pit road for service one more time. So DeBarro leading the crew and just making things happen as it is. We'll see what DeBarro can do and how they sort things out. Going to jump out and will lead the battle on pit road. So no changes. A good night on pit road for the 96. He'll keep the lead.
Yeah, absolutely. And having that number 1 pit box definitely plays a factor in that. But also having a fast pit crew like we've seen him have all night has also played a factor in that. We're going to do the midway race break here in just a moment. We want to let the scoring settle or set back up after these guys go across the line. We're just going to take a moment here, and then we'll get going with that. But Anthony DeBarro has definitely been the class of the field here tonight, James. No doubt about that. He's got one of the fastest cars, if not the fastest car. It's going to be very interesting to see who's going to be able to get up there and challenge him for that. It looks like Eberhard might have stayed out on that last pit stop, though, and he's going to be a race leader again.
Suppose might as well go ahead and kick it off and give it the official kickoff that it deserves. So let's go ahead and tackle it. The iRacing Midway Race Break, which is brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, the Cars Tour, and more, including USAC, which just announced that their non-wing sprint cars will be the second cars to join the dirt tracks here that have just come out on iRacing a few weeks ago. Eberhard did indeed stay out, so he'll be your race leader. Then DeBarro, Marinac, Castro, and Shed, your top 5. Nick Silver sits in the 6th spot at the moment. Then Ross Cato, Mike Kelly, CJ Lavera, and Nelson Rivera, your top 10 as they run.
Scott Simley will sit in the 11th position, followed by Doug Roth. Then we have Colson Bermudez in 13th. Jeffrey Creek is 14th, and right now the last car on the lead lap is David Comstock in 15th. Then we have Dwayne Vincent in 16th, one lap down, followed by Steve Gottschalk in 17th, Shane Ewing 18th, Stephanie Lessentine, and Trevor Rapallo wrap up the top 20.
21st belongs to the 20 of A.J. Browning. Austin Coop currently runs in 22nd. Then it's Dylan Jones in the 23rd spot. All these drivers beginning to run into trouble earlier and many laps down now. Brandon Bowie currently sits in 24th. Sean Boundy is in the 25th spot at the moment. 26 belongs to David Washington. We know he's out of the race with trouble. So more cars coming here, and we'll get back to that midway and finish that up as we get ready for the restart. As lights are off the pace car. Here comes Daniel Eberhard. He'll lead him off to the field. Here we go. Green flag.
Yeah, he spun the tires here a little bit. They're side by side for the race lead. It looks like the old tire is not going to work out for Eberhard as DeBarro slides his way through on the outside line to take that position. And now Eberhard's going to have to try to fight back on to try to hang on at this point, actually, as he's on the older tires here. We saw that it worked out pretty well for Stefan Marinac after he was able to get settled in. Now it looks like Eberhard's going to get settled in, but he's got a couple of guys right behind him that are really fighting hard. Sean Castro and Stefan Marinac fighting for that third position. Looks like Stefan is trapped on the bottom, and Nick Silver is now going to try to take that position. He's fighting on the outside line as well, trying to bring a couple more guys with him.
Can you make tires or no tires work? That's the question. Eberhard doing a nice job of it at the moment. He's got the preferred racing groove up on the top side and has managed to hang on to the second spot. Meanwhile, Marinac is in trouble, stuck down there on the bottom, and there's not really a spot up on the top side for him to go. Needs to find a hole to make sure that he can get back into the racing groove and not lose too many positions, but pit strategy worked to get him back up to the front of the field, but he just didn't get a good restart. He couldn't get cleared and will slide back just a little bit, back to 6th, I think, when this is all said and done. So, Eberhard in second, beginning to make things work. Then you've got Casto, Nick Silver running a race high 4th at the moment, and then Carl Shedd currently in that 5th spot to round out your top 5.
Yeah, absolutely, and he's doing a really good job, Carl Shedd. I just want to mention that because he started just a little, actually he started in 5th, but he kind of fell back at the beginning of the race. We really haven't said a whole lot about him, but he's made his way back to the front here and is starting to make some noise. I'm very excited to see what he's able to do in the second half of this race as he's all over the back of that Hot Wheels car. Nick Silver right in front of him, also having a really good run. As you mentioned, this is the highest he has ran all night long, and he's trying to make the move on Sean Casto. Just not able to get the run that he needs to get to his inside, and unfortunately he's not going to be able to get to his outside because there's a wall up there. So he's just waiting for a mistake or waiting for that opportunity to take that position away. But once again, look at the old tires that Eberhard has right now. He's hanging on really nicely. Other than losing the lead to DeBarro, James, he has not lost any ground at all. He's hung on in second. He's about a second behind the race leader right now, but he's doing a pretty good job. And actually he was a little bit faster than DeBarro that last time by. He gained about a 10th.
I think we're learning here pretty quickly the track position is absolutely the way to go, and the track position up there quick, and Eberhard did just that, kind of laid off in the restart to get up top there, and all of a sudden it's clicking off some really strong laps. Still about 0.8 of a second behind DeBarro, but give him some time, give him a chance to set a rhythm, and the 90 car might be coming up towards that rear bumper of the 96.
Yeah, absolutely. As he just knocked off another chunk, about a 10th again off of the race leader. So he's definitely got some speed in that car despite being on older tires. We have a little bit of contact between Carl Shedd and Stefan Marinak. Shedd got up into the wall. Marinak had nowhere to go, ran into the back of him. They're able to keep it straight and keep it under green. But a little bit of contact right there. Check those guys up for just a moment. Very scary moment for both of them for just a quick second. And now they're gathered back up and they're back under fire on Nick Silver trying to take that position from him. These guys still single file at the front. That's where it gets really scary though, James. When you get up against that wall and you've got somebody right behind you the way that Shedd did, that could have been disastrous because he could have gotten turned around by Stefan if they had made a little bit heavier contact right there. He got very lucky that didn't end up worse than it was.
Very lucky indeed. Also, watching the times here between DeBarro and Eberhard, it was down to almost 0.6, now back up to 0.7, and now as they cross the stripe again, up and holding at about 0.7 of a second. So I wonder if DeBarro might be responding to Eberhard's charge, might have laid back for a little bit, but times are clicking off just a little bit faster for the 96 car. So those two beginning to set their own little pace and have a war of lap times as the cars behind them have a war of position and just try to use some combination of the chrome horn and the right spot on the racetrack to get up towards the front and fight those two.
Yeah, absolutely, and these guys continue to battle back and forth with their distance between each other. As right now, Eberhard just clicked off a couple hundredths off of the race leader. He's down to 0.6 off of Anthony DeBarro at this point. But I think, like you said, DeBarro noticed that he was getting a little bit closer to him, and he picked up his pace, just trying to show him, hey, I've got more speed in this car than I'm showing right now. However, Eberhard responded to that as well and said, well, so do I, and he's been picking up his pace as well. These guys, as we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, they've had a rivalry in this series for a very long time, and it's no surprise to me at all that here we are in the late stages of this race here at Bristol, and it's those two, Anthony DeBarro and Daniel Eberhard, at the front once again. As Eberhard closes in almost another full 10th off of Anthony DeBarro, he is certainly clicking off some fast laps right now, James. It's only a matter of time before he is there and challenging for the race lead.
Oh, what's another meet and greet between old friends and our proverbial little coffee shop visit between the two now, isn't it? Just not a total surprise at all to see these two up there, but they know what they're in for. They've seen each other enough to know what kind of racer they are and know what they do, know what they succeed at, know what they're good with, and they'll figure it out. As we have issues just a little bit behind, I saw Sean Casto get bumped by somebody and got turned into the wall just about, saved it, managed to hold on to the thing, but boy, did he lose some spots. Drops from the 4th spot to the 7th spot, 3 spots back, and it's Nick Silver who comes out the big winner of that little kerfuffle. Silver now in the Hot Wheels 24 machine, up to the 3rd position.
Yeah, that was intense right there. Carl Shedd was trying to make the move on the inside of the number 52 of Sean Casto, and he just washed up the track a little bit, got into the door of Sean Casto and kicked him sideways, but the wall saved Casto and kept him straight and kept that from being much bigger than it could have been once again. So a very lucky break for the number 52 machine. And as you mentioned, Nick Silver made out like a bandit. He's up into third, and we have a wreck on the front stretch, I'm hearing, and we're back under caution once again here at Bristol.
So we will see what has happened. 68, Scott Simley, I believe. Man in trouble this time. So, and you see a little bit of a war wound on that car. So, trouble's there for Scott. The yellows continue here in Bristol. We just haven't been able to get a good green flag run going, and I think it's played into the hands of the likes of Eberhardt and Marinac and those who decided to stay out. Track position is so key here, and we're seeing these guys really make off with some good pit strategy to gain some spots here up through the field.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I believe the number 7 and Nelson Rivera learned from what he saw these guys do. He stayed out on the racetrack, so he's going to inherit the race lead. Actually, looks like they're coming to pit road on the backstretch, so never mind. They are going to come in and get tires and fuel, but Anthony DeBarro is down and away with fresh tires. He's going to win the race off pit road, followed by Eberhardt. So once again, these two at the front. And then we had a three-way drag race off the pit road for third between Carl Shed, Nick Silver, and the number 25 Stefan Marinac. I believe Shed won that race off pit road, but it wasn't by much. He just barely got that.
Very close. We'll have to see what race control does and if they decide to sort anybody out. So let them kind of do their thing and make it happen. But just a really big move, I think, for Eberhardt. He definitely took something from Stefan Marinac's playbook just a few moments ago when Marinac stayed out. Now has made the strategy work for him. So now Eberhardt's back up towards the front of the field and can make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's just going to be wild to see here what happens with DeBarro and Eberhardt now being on equal tires once again. We saw Eberhardt was matching times, and at times he was actually faster than DeBarro on older tires by about 25 laps. So now putting these guys back on equal tires, it's sure to be exciting at the front here. But how about Carl Shed? He's all the way up to third now. He's getting closer and closer to the front. This is the highest he's been all night long. And he's trying to get up there and race with these guys and see if he can keep up and maybe challenge for the race lead.
Let's see what happens here. We'll get everybody kind of stacked up, re-racked, and figure out things and make it happen. But should be fun. Also, we'll take a moment here to make sure that you figure out the rest of the midway race break. We kind of got caught off on the restart there, but all these cars out of the race as far as we know. 27th, Andrew Fariñas, then Jeff Warden, 28th, Eric Arnold, 29th, Keith Medeiros, 30th, Corbin Hemstreet, 31st, Scott Walter, 32nd, Bruce Ackerman, 33rd, Thomas George, 34th, Lionel Callisto, 35th, and Joseph Tice, 36th. And that has been a delayed but completed iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of exclusive promo codes to get yourself on the sim with a 1-year membership for half the normal price. But I think that's just a testament. If we've got that many cars out of here, nothing short of a bloodbath is what we've seen tonight here, Brian. It's been a bit hairy, to say the least.
Yeah, but that's Bristol short track racing at its finest, and it's just one of those deals, beating and banging, and tempers have been flaring tonight. We've seen a couple of altercations under caution due to wrecks that have happened, but we're about to go back green. DeBarro's got control. Eberhardt's on the outside. Eberhardt tried to time it. He jumped the gun just a little bit, had to back off, and DeBarro gets away once again. He gets clear of everybody going through 1 and 2. Now, Carl Shed and Nick Silver battle for that 3rd and 4th position, trying to figure out who's going to go to the outside line. Nick Silver will get ahead, and Carl Shed slots in behind him, so he's going to fall back to 4th, and now the battle is on behind him. Stefan Marinac now trying to work his way to the outside line, and now look at Mike Kelly behind these guys. He's making some moves. He's to the inside of Nelson Rivera as they head to 3.
They're side by side. Meanwhile, Eberhardt just power drove through 1 and 2 there. He's got speed in that number 90 machine. He's coming for Anthony DeBarro, starting to look and poke and prod and try and find a way past the WinView Games 96 machine that has controlled this race for almost the entirety of the 159 laps we've completed so far. Could be very, very interesting. They're starting to pull away from Nick Silver. It's Eberhard and DeBarro at the front of the field. Might be a battle for the lead here in just a few moments.
Yeah, it is a battle for the lead as Eberhard goes to the bottom of the racetrack trying to find some grip down there. He was not able to find it as he slid up the track, almost made contact with DeBarro. He's got to get back in line behind him, and now he's going to have to try to mount that charge once again. As he does so just in the middle of 3 and 4, was able to close right back in on the back bumper of DeBarro. But we just saw how difficult it's going to be to make that move on the bottom of the racetrack. He went all the way to the bottom of the racetrack and just could not make the car stick, slid way up the track and had to check up, and that unfortunately cost him his opportunity at the race lead right there. However, he's not giving up. He's back on and once again gets another big run off the corner. It is incredible, James, how strong he is on corner exit. He just carries so much momentum off the corner.
Backed his corner up in 1 and 2 the last time to try and get a run on the straightaway. Looks like he might have overdriven the corner a little bit there, though, that last time by. So, going to be curious. It's a very, very, very big cat and mouse game, and we'll see how that shakes out. Meanwhile, got a battle here for, I believe, the 5th spot. Marinac and Casto going back and forth, and those two are kind of nose to tail. And then you've got trouble. Oh, Doug Roth nearly gets turned in the middle of turns 1 and 2 right there, but he saved it, got on the brakes and checked it, and everybody behind him somehow managed to check up and not run right into the back of the 43, but that almost was another yellow flag right in front of our eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to this battle between Casto and Marinac. They are not giving up at all here. As you see Marinac trying to find a little bit of room on the outside line. I thought he was going to try to stick his nose to the outside of Casto, but just was not able to get the gas down. He tries it once again in the middle of 1 and 2. Looks like Casto is opening up a little bit of a lane going through the middle of the corner. And if he can get that run, Marinac's going to take that position and try to slide by the 52 on the outside line. Meanwhile, back at the front, these guys are bumper to bumper. DeBarro backed up to Eberhard just a little bit here, and they are getting ready to have another battle at the front. And look who's sitting right behind them. Nick Silver, he's chomping at the bit, waiting for these guys to get racing so he can get up there and challenge as well. We're about to have ourselves a little three-way battle for the race lead here at Bristol.
Silver's managed to come alive here in the short tracks. Had a really strong run at Martinsville. Was able to stay out of the majority of the wrecks in that race and came home third. And here he is, third place again, coming through about the 3/4 point of this race. 170 laps up on the board now. So a nice run for the 24 car, being able to figure out these little half-mile tracks that we've been through the last 2 weeks and doing a nice job of it. Meanwhile, these front three are just driving away from everybody else. Casto and Marinac are going at each other hard, but just can't find a way to separate that battle. And in the meantime, Carl Shedd's driven off the front of Casto's bumper to the tune of about, a second and a half, I'd say. So Shedd able to make it happen and stick, and maybe before too long, with these three kind of running together and not really going anywhere, we might see Carl Shedd creep up to the rear bumper of Nick Silver. Might not be too long before we have a battle for third.
Yeah, absolutely. As he's only about 7/10 off the back bumper of Nick Silver right now, and if these three start racing and start losing a little bit of time, he's going to be right there to challenge these guys in a heartbeat. So that's exactly what he's waiting for, and I'm sure that's what Nick Silver is waiting for as well. Is he's just close enough to be able to make a move if something happens, but he's not close enough to where he can actually try to take any positions away from these guys at the moment. He needs to get just a little bit closer. But look, Eberhard almost hit the wall coming off the corner right there. You can tell he's giving it everything he's got at this point of the race. We're down to the last 50 laps of this race, so now if you've got it, you've got to start showing it because you're running out of time. 50 laps here at Bristol will tick off in about 13 minutes or so. It doesn't take very long if we stay green here to tick off 50 laps. They're running about 4 laps a minute, so it won't be very long before we're talking about the last 10 laps of this race. They've got to get going if they want to get up there and try to challenge DeBarro.
The only thing that would change that up is if we have a late race caution or 2 or 3, which is certainly possible with the way the race has gone tonight and with the nature of short track racing. But at the moment, Eberhard looks like he's laid off the rear bumper of DeBarro a little bit, so I wonder if Eberhard might be trying to save his tires, save his stuff, see if he can set something up for maybe the last 10 or 15 laps, because he's got a fast car, and we can't forget that the chrome horn is absolutely a possibility here, and he's close enough to DeBarro that if he needs to, he may well just use it to get the victory.
Well, and once again, these guys have had a rivalry in the past, and it certainly wouldn't be above either one of them to do that if it meant going for the victory here at the end of one of these races. I'm pretty sure they've had some contact before at the end of races that has led to one or the other winning a race. So definitely something to pay attention to as we get closer to the end. The chrome horn definitely an option for either one of these guys. Looks like Eberhard's going to be the man that's going to have to do it. These guys are starting to get away from Nick Silver, though. They've opened up almost a 9/10 of a second gap over Nick Silver. Not sure if he had some issues or if his car is just starting to fade a little bit, but these two are certainly just starting to drive away from everybody. They've now opened up 2.2 seconds over Carl Shed, so this is definitely going to be down to these two. As you see, Eberhard, once again, he just gets so close to the back bumper of DeBarro, but not close enough to actually hit him and try to move him out of the way. At what point, James, do you think you want to make that move? Do you want to wait till the last lap, or do you want to try to do it earlier so that you have time to get away from him?
We've seen it with 3 to go, 2 to go, 5 to go. The last lap, I have to believe somewhere in that 5 to go range is when you pull it. And then you pray that you do it well enough that you get away from the other driver to the point where you can't get any retaliation shot and the driver can't bump you back to get the position back. So speaking of positions, by the way, we'll let you know that Marinac has cleared Sean Casto, so you can move Stefan Marinac up to the 5th position, and a really strong run from the Florida Gator car tonight. 25 is going to be happy with his performance. If he can hang on to it and get a top 5 out of this, would be, I believe, his strongest run of the season so far. So, but up at the front of the field, it's lap traffic that we're now working. You see Alston Coop there on the bottom being cleared by DeBarro and Eberhard. But that's the other factor I think that we have to watch for as the laps wind down here, Brian. One part will be the chrome horn. One part will be tire saving. I think a third part will be if lap traffic is in the way, what sort of role do they play in the way this race ends?
Well, and that's going to be very interesting because the rule of thumb is that you try to give the preferred racing groove to the leaders, but that's not always the case. These drivers have the option to run wherever they want and to force the leaders to go around them, much like we just saw Scott Simley do. He did not give up the outside line. He forced both DeBarro and Eberhard to go to the bottom and go by him, and that's certainly their right and their ability to do so. That definitely will play a factor. As you saw, that Eberhard was actually able to get right up on the back bumper of DeBarro. If he's just a little bit closer trying to work through traffic, he might be able to pin DeBarro behind one of these guys and try to use them as a pick to get by and try to take this race lead. Certainly we could see them be a strategy move on the part of one of these guys to try to get the lead, or just to try to get away from the other to try to secure this race lead and try to secure the victory.
Differences in the way the lap cars run their lines might well play into this. And you see a big difference between Simley. Simley runs the top side, and then you just saw your leaders through Stephanie Lessentine, and she ran the bottom and gave the leaders the top side where they've been running for the majority of the evening. So it is the lap car's choice. At the end of the day, they decide which lane they want the leaders to clear them in. But sometimes those change. Sometimes not everybody's in the same boat. You can have them go inside, outside very quickly and kind of stagger themselves on the racetrack, and that's when you start looking at your thread the needle moments. You have to be really, really careful about where and how you pass these lap cars if you're a lead car, because it is very, very easy to get caught up in an incident with a lap car if you're the leader and have what was a very good shot at a victory ruined in a matter of moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Fortunately for the race leaders, though, they don't have a ton of lap traffic ahead of them. They've got just another car right now directly ahead of them, and then and we're back under caution. We have a wreck on the backstretch. Looks like Doug Roth was around on the backstretch. That's right in front of the race leaders. Looks like they made it through cleanly, but that could have been a moment right there, much like you were just talking about. Get caught up in something else or somebody else's mess, and it could have been disastrous for the race leaders. However, they got very lucky. Doug Roth, he got turned around. You see the replay on your screen. Looks like the number 12 machine of Ross Cato got into the back bumper of him, kicked him sideways, and then the number 78 of Jeffrey Creek had nowhere to go and got collected as well.
I think that if my heart was in my throat for a few seconds, seeing DeBarro clear Doug Roth and seeing how close that was to being a really big incident, I would imagine that for him it was just as terrifying. But came through with a clean car, so he will lead the field down to pit road for what could be the final round of pit stops here as we come across the stripe to get lap 196. 29 laps left to settle this race at Bristol. Money stop, as it were, Brian Macklin. Hit it and make sure you do not screw up here.
Yeah, absolutely, and I don't think we're going to see any two-tire calls. I was interested to see if Eberhardt was going to make that decision. He did not. DeBarro will win the race off pit road with 4 fresh tires, and then Eberhardt comes out in second. And I believe Nick Silver is going to come out next in third. Then Carl Shed fourth. Stefan Marinac and Sean Casto come out right behind them. No major strategy calls on pit road like we could have seen right there, and this would have been the time to do it, James. We saw these guys that had stayed out on older tires, and they were able to make it work. I'm very surprised we didn't have somebody try to do that here, unless maybe they just felt like there was too many laps on the tires for it to actually be successful at this point. That would be the only thing that would play into that factor. They ran quite a few laps there, actually. That was our longest green flag run of the night, probably close, I'd say 50, 60 laps right there. It was a pretty good run.
Yeah, and I think the other big factor that plays into that decision is that it's so close to the end of the race here. We're going to be within 25 laps of the checkered flag when we get the green flag, or somewhere very near that point, that you don't have a lot of time to save yourself if the plan doesn't work out. And I think most importantly, you're not necessarily guaranteed another yellow flag to reset the field, because even if we do get another yellow flag, it's not very likely that you'll see these drivers come down pit road again unless they have to come fix damage, but then you're working with a different set of problems entirely. So everything kind of resets itself, and you just kind of have to hang on at this point. It's very much a situation, I think, for these drivers at the front of the field of you have what you have, and you just have to go out and race the old-fashioned way to try and win here.
Yeah, absolutely. And now this is where it is go time, and we're down to that point of the race where if these guys are going to pick up their aggression level, it's going to happen now. And for the front 2 leaders, it's about to really get wild, because these 2 drivers, they both want desperately to win. They've not won in this series yet this season. They're not full-timers, and they want to get up there and prove that even though they're not running week in and week out, they still have what it takes to go to victory lane. And for one of these guys, it might very well happen. However, Nick Silver, he's one of those full-timers that's got something to say about that. He wants to get up there and try to take this thing away from both of them.
Nick Silver, yeah, having a really, really strong run here. And we have not seen that car win. Hasn't won since, I believe, Indianapolis last year, if my memory serves me correctly. So has been a little bit of time since we've seen the 24 in victory lane, and this might be his best shot since then to go grab a checkered flag. Restart will come on lap 225 laps left to settle tonight's race here at Bristol in the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series. Pace car comes off pit road here, and off goes DeBarro and gets a pretty good start, but Eberhardt timed it really, really well. He tries to pinch the 90. They make contact, and Eberhardt's going to have the preferred racing line. They're going to pinch and pinch and pinch as they come out of the corner. Here comes Daniel Eberhardt on the high side. DeBarro tries to drive it in deep and clean it up, and somehow he tried to make it stick, couldn't make it stick. They make contact again. Here comes Eberhardt. They touch, they bang. Contact everywhere, and there goes Daniel Eberhardt to the race lead for the first time all night. A new leader. It's Daniel Eberhardt.
And we have a wreck behind them. Carl Shed in the 45 got kicked sideways. They're 3 wide trying to catch back up and get caught or get everything sorted out. Another little bit of contact back there between the number 45 and the 25 of Stefan Marinac. But they managed to hang on and stay green here. But how about that move by Eberhardt to take the race lead? He drove it off into the corner. He made contact with DeBarro and was able to get by him, but he put DeBarro up into the fence, and now DeBarro's got some pretty heavy damage. We see him dropping backwards. Nick Silver moved in the second, and now we see DeBarro getting challenged by Casto. As he's to the bottom of the racetrack, he's going to lose a ton of positions at this point.
He got the wall very, very good, and I have to imagine that's really, really hurting the 96 machine. But credit to Daniel Eberhardt, he really timed that restart well, and when you needed to have a good one, That is exactly what the 90 car did. Was able to stick with DeBarro on the outside and was able to take that preferred racing line away from the 96 and just hung it up there and stayed in his spot. And eventually was able to duck underneath DeBarro and get the lead and get it done. Now he's driving off, and it's up to Nick Silver, the one car here that might have a shot to make it happen unless we get another yellow flag. But Silver's already a second behind. If you're the 24 car, you have to go if you want to make something happen and try and win this race.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no time to try to save tires to get up there and use that tire strategy to get to him. You just got to go as hard as you can. You've got less than 20 laps at this point. It is go time for sure. But right now, Eberhardt is driving away. He's already put up to 1.1 seconds, and as they cross the stripe right here, looks like he's going to add about another half a tenth to that gap over Nick Silver. So certainly driving away at this point as he's already jumping out. And for Anthony DeBarro, who's pretty much dominated this race, he's by far led the most laps here tonight. He's all the way back to 12th, and it looks like he's not going to get much more than that out of this race unless we get a caution and give him an opportunity to try to get that car worked on just a little bit. But even then, we're running out of time for that to happen as well, because we're down to just over 15 laps to go here at Bristol.
15 laps to go as they run. Eberhardt looking for his first win of the season. Nick Silver looking for a season's best second place finish. Same can be said for the 52 of Sean Casto, who's been up there all night and managed to hang on a few times. He's been sideways a few times, but hasn't turned the car around and has one of the cleaner cars out there. And that's probably your best battle on track right now. He and Stefan Marinak have been tangling all night long, and it's another run for the 52 and the 25, and then you've got Carl Shedd, Mike Kelly, and Nelson Rivera, who's having another strong run up here. This might be another season's best for him, too. Currently running in the 7th spot.
Yeah, absolutely. A great run for Nelson Rivera. And then how about Dwayne Vincent just kind of sneaking his way up there? He started 34th, took a provisional here tonight, and he's sitting in 8th. He managed to just kind of make his way through this race, stayed out of trouble, didn't get caught up in anything. I think that car is clean for the most part. I don't see, other than a little bit of rear end damage, that car is in pristine condition. He's doing a very good job here, and he's definitely done an incredible job at keeping that car out of trouble. Going to get a pretty good finish here for him. But for Daniel Eberhardt, he is less than, about 10 laps away from potentially his first victory here in the Full Throttle Cup Series since last year during the chase at Kansas. He won that race at Kansas and was able to take home that checkered flag. Did not get the championship as he was hoping, but still a pretty impressive run for him. As we look towards the end of this race, though, you got to be expecting he's very excited about possibly going back to victory lane here.
Just cruise, hit your marks. That's all you really have to do at this point if you ever with the lead as big as it is, 1.5 seconds as they run. So Eberhardt's got a very, very clean number 90 machine, and all that has to happen here is just make sure that you avoid everything. Nothing too crazy here, just ride it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we need to kind of keep an eye on is the number 96 of Anthony DeBarro. He's about 9 seconds behind. He's only about 5 seconds ahead of the race leader right now, Eberhardt. They had that issue just a handful of laps ago. Got to wonder if DeBarro's thinking about that. Should Eberhardt catch him before this race is over? Definitely going to be something to keep an eye on as we get closer to the end of this race. Might have a little bit of late race drama between these two before this thing is all said and done.
Shades of Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer at the Fall Phoenix race in 2012. We remember Boyer and Gordon tangled, and Gordon managed to turn Boyer hard in the wall, and then we saw a very MacGyver-like sprint from Boyer into the infield where a fracas and melee ensued between the two pit crews. So may keep our eyes peeled for that here, but not too much longer left to go for Eberhardt. 4 laps to settle it. They're all kind of bunched up in lap traffic there from third on back, but Eberhardt and Silver just got to go clear to the end. Nothing too crazy for them.
Yeah, absolutely, and not really a whole lot going on. You got a small battle going on right now between Stefan Marinak and Sean Casto. Casto's trying to hold on to that third position. Stefan Marinak wants it. Carl Shedd's right there behind him as well. This is the tightest battle we've got on the track right now. These couple of drivers battling for a top 5 position, but not much going on at the front. Just 3 laps to go for Eberhardt and Nick Silver. They're going to get a pair of really good finishes for both of them here as we get ready to come to 2 to go, James.
2 laps to go for Daniel Eberhardt to make it happen, who's had a strong car all night long, no doubt, and has been able to make it work, make it stick, make it happen. He's kept it up there, used some pit strategy to kind of reshuffle and cycle himself back to the front of the field. Got an incredible jump on that final restart here. And as we watch, I think he's taking caution, trying to make sure that DeBarro doesn't end up causing any troubles for him, but should be cleaner to the end. He's backing it up to Nick Silver, but it won't matter. Daniel Eberhardt gets the victory at Bristol. Nick Silver comes home in second. Now we'll watch here, and I think biggest question post-race isn't necessarily our top five, but the afters between DeBarro and Eberhardt. That, I think, we'll keep an eye on and see if anything happens.
Yeah, absolutely. As after, not necessarily between those two, but we do have an incident between Stefan Marinak and Carl Shed, and then it also looks like Mike Kelly might have decided to join in on the fun. As they're having a little bit of a post-race altercation, not between the two drivers we were expecting, but still, nonetheless, we have a little bit of fun here as this race concludes. We're about to see Eberhardt come down to the front stretch to do his burnout and celebrate his first victory here in the Full Throttle Cup Series since last year at Kansas. He's burning it down, and what an incredible victory for that number 90 machine, James. He had to ride behind Anthony DeBarro all night long, but when it came down to it, he got the job done and went to victory lane.
Gets it done, and there we are right on cue. We see Anthony DeBarro T-bone Daniel Eberhardt at the end of the race. So we'll let our officials here at RealSimRacing.com sort this one out. And while they do that, we'll take a break and then come back and talk to your top finishers. You're watching the RealSimRacing.com Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary Mercer Trucking on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing, it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda SimSport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing eSport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iracing.com/live.
So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
Welcome back to coverage of the RSR Full Throttle Cup Series presented by Gary and Mercer Trucking here on LSRTV. And we are here to finish off coverage tonight and go ahead and talk to everybody, do what we need to do, and make sure that everything gets cleaned up. And that starts with running off your full race results, which are brought to you by Hippie's Paint Shop. Hippie's Paint Shop has over 5 years of experience providing top quality custom paint schemes for all iRacing vehicles at a low price. Because after all, at Hippie's Paint Shop, the cost isn't high, just the painter. Daniel Eberhardt comes away with the victory this evening. First win of 2017. Nick Silver gets his best finish of the season, comes home second tonight, as does Sean Casto, who finishes in the third spot tonight. Stefan Marinak, also in the best run of the season category. He'll go fourth. Carl Shedd finishes in the fifth position. Sixth belong to the number 2 car, Mike Kelly. Nelson Rivera with the season's best finishes seventh for the 7 car. A lot of sevens right there. Dwayne Vincent comes home in the 8th spot tonight. CJ LeVere started 27th, finishes 9th, and then Scott Simley rounds out your top 10.
Ross Cato will finish in the 11th position here tonight, and then Anthony DeBarro started on the pole, led the majority of this race. He finishes 12th after contact between himself and Daniel Eberhardt on the last restart of here tonight. He's the last car that finishes on the lead lap. We got Doug Roth in the 13th position. Then we have Trevor Rapallo in 14th. Stephanie Lessentine finishes 15th. Then Steve Gottschalk is 16th. Austin Koop finishes 17th. Jeffrey Creek is 18th. 19th goes to Brandon Bowie. And Colson Bermudez finishes 20th. All of these drivers from 17th on back were multiple laps down, most out of the race.
Either out of the race or only back in it after a long period of repairs on pit road. David Comstock finishes 21st after winning last week at Martinsville, so a disappointing run for him. Shane Ewing finished 22nd. Points leader David Washington did not have a strong night at all, came home 23rd. AJ Browning finishes 24th. Andrew Fari-Niars finishes 25th. 26th belongs to the Aegis Motorsports driver Dylan Jones. Sean Boundy finished in 27th. Then it was Jeff Ward, 28th, Eric Arnold, 29th, and Keith Medeiros rounding out your top 30.
Corbin Hemstreet will finish 31st here tonight, followed by Scott Walker in 32nd. Bruce Ackerman is 33rd. Then we have Thomas George in 34th. 35th will be Lionel Callisto. Then Joseph Tice finishes 36th, and will round out that 36 car field here at the Bristol Motor Speedway. However, James, I believe you're down in victory circle with a very excited driver, Daniel Eberhardt, with his first victory since Kansas last year. He's up there celebrating on the side of his car. He just started spraying champagne all over you.
Champagne and more champagne and more champagne, and I think most importantly, since we're at Bristol, a big sword up in the hands of the driver of the number 90, Daniel Eberhardt, who gets the victory tonight at Bristol. Daniel, I think we will go from the end of the race back towards the front, and the big key here, that final restart off of the yellow where you got the lead. Take us through what happened and your perspective of things as you were able to wrest the lead away from Anthony DeBarro.
We had the restart, and got a good restart, and we were coming down the front straightaway, and we went off into 1 equal, and then we kind of touched coming out of 2, down off into 3 and 4. He wanted to put the slide job, so I checked up real hard and slammed the throttle out of 4 and got to the inside of him, and we just came together coming into 3 and 4. Looked like he came down a little bit, and I wasn't, I was trying to slide job him back, but it was just 2 cars coming together right there, and that's never going to work. Feel bad that it damaged his car. Maybe we could have raced it out and wrecked each other some more.
Going back before that, though, you got up to the second spot, though, because of a really, really good set of calls on pit road. Did you have a sense of how big track position was going to be, knowing the nature of racing at Bristol, and did that factor into some of your decisions tonight, or did you kind of call it as it went and just made it happen based off the way the race was going and the way your car was driving?
Well, you have to base it off the way you drive the car. If you think you can save good enough tires, like all of our team, racing with Dave and them, they teach you how to save tires really good. And when I was racing against Debarro, if all you're going to do is pounce it off the wall every lap and stay up front that way, well, I guess you're going to have to stay out with no tires. So you gotta figure it out. Bristol's a real hard track to work at, and it's a fun racetrack. I really loved it. I loved it all week long when we were racing here in the A fixed, and it's fun to come here and duke it out with the guys, but it's just really hard to pass. And I know you guys can see that every race or every lap here. You're trying to sit there and pass somebody, and you just can't make the bottom work. There's no grip.
You're, I think, one of a handful of drivers over the beginning of the season who's had strong runs when he's been in these races, but just hasn't quite put it together for a good finish. And now that you've got that win under your belt, does that sort of change the way you race a little bit, give you a little bit of confidence going into another short track next week in Richmond?
Yeah, coming back to a short track, everybody that's been watching, seen a lot of viewers tonight and looking on the chat and everything. And, y'all best come back next week because I'm pretty sure DeBarro's got something up his sleeve for next week. I guess it's another rivalry in the making against me, against Boomtown, I guess, if that's what it's going to be like. Yeah, but you got to go in there with confidence. But I think the next week at Richmond, I think Dave Washington's going to be the guy to beat. He just knows how to roll the center there, and he's really good. And hopefully he can teach me a few things this week and we can practice on it and get towards the front. But going and winning this race, it takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders, but I'm pretty sure I'm not locked in just yet. I'm still going to have to qualify my way in. And one thing I need to say sorry about is spinning Colson Bermudez out. I didn't have any contact on my screen, and it looked like netcode, and I kept hearing it was netcode, but I just took it because we got together at Martinsville the week before, and I didn't want any, bad stuff happening between us. I'm not out here to, make enemies. It's fun doing all this, and it's all fun, but at the end of the day, we kind of want to take it serious and get to the Final Four of the championship.
I know you mentioned Dave and some of the Aegis folks ahead here of this question that we always give everybody, but shout out sponsors, people. Who do you need to thank for making the victory tonight happen?
First off, I got to thank Aegis Motorsports, but really we're just we're a tied-in team, if you want to call it, like Furniture Road to Joe Gibbs. I'm actually on PowerTech Racing. Got to thank James Ross for putting PowerTech on the side of our cars. Got to thank Dave, Andy, Andrew. Let's see, who else can I thank? Carl, Joseph, Trevor, Bruce, all the guys over at Aegis and PowerTech. We work really hard, and this is what we look for, wins week in and week out. And got to thank my girlfriend for sitting here and watching these long races. I know that cautions can come and go in these races, but I got to thank her, and I got to thank good Lord above for letting me do this each and every week.
Congratulations on the victory, Daniel, and we'll see you next Monday night in Richmond.
Thank you, guys.
So that's Daniel Eberhardt, victor tonight here at the world's fastest half mile in the last great Coliseum. And from Daniel, we move to the man who finished second, the Hot Wheels car, the number 24, Nick Silver. He's standing by with our Brian Macklin.
Indeed he is, and Nick, I just want to congratulate you on your best finish of the season here tonight. You got a second place at Bristol. Take us through your wild night. You started in 17th, so you had your work cut out for you to get to the front. How did you manage to get up and finish second here tonight?
Well, just like Martinsville, just focused on surviving and slowly moving up there. Stayed out on the first couple cautions there, and that helped me get towards the front.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're starting to put together some consistent runs here. This is your fourth top 10 in the last 5 races. It certainly seems like things are starting to go in the right direction for you guys in the number 24 camp. What can we expect out of even the next couple of weeks?
Well, hopefully we at least keep the streak of top 5s alive. I think we got something at Richmond, and then Talladega, I think, is the one after that, and that's anybody's game. So, but we're gonna keep these top 5s going.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your credit, you've done really good at the short track so far. You finished third last week at Martinsville and then second here tonight. Can we expect to see you run for the victory at Richmond next week?
Well, we're sure going to give it a shot. Like I said, the strategy's so far helping us. So just going to keep doing what we've been doing these last couple races and at least get ourselves towards the front. And then, anybody's got a chance.
Absolutely, Nick. We look forward to seeing what you're able to do next week at the Richmond International Raceway. Real quick, do want to just give you an opportunity to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family that might be watching. Who makes it happen for you on the number 24 machine, Nick?
Of course, thank you guys for putting it on. RSR as well. John Abbott doing all he does. And apparently my loyal fan base was upset on Twitter that I didn't mention him last week. So hello to my mom and dad.
All right. Well, congrats on your finish here tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next week at Richmond on Monday night.
Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Nick Silver, driver of the number 24 Hot Wheels machine. He finished second here tonight at Martinsville. He's going to try to back that, or tonight at Bristol, I'm sorry. He's going to try to back that up with another great run next week at Richmond. I'm going to slide over here real quick and catch up with a third place finisher, Sean Casto, with a really solid run here tonight. Sean, you had an up and down night. You spent most of the night up inside the top 5, top 10, but you did have a couple of incidents with some drivers. Take us through your night here tonight and what led to your third place finish.
Appreciate it, boys. I'd like to thank all the team. Full team effort there. We had all 3 cars Prestige Worldwide top 10 at one point. Bad luck to Keith. Yeah, it was a good race. I tried to keep it out of trouble. Did for the most part. Got a little bit of damage on the left side. That's expected here. Able to keep it going, but absolutely great race.
Yeah, and take us through some of that racing you had with Stefan Marinac and Carl Shedd. It was extremely exciting for us to call up in the booth. How was it down in the driver's seat racing with those guys for the majority of the night? Because it looked like it was a blast from up here.
Yeah, Carl and I had a little bit of a tango in the middle of the race. Everything was cool there, but I know he was going to race me hard. Stefan was racing me honest, but hard the entire race. So I was trying to keep Stefan honest, let him burn up his stuff, get them finally racing against each other, and then focus out the front. Not a whole lot of wall riding, not a whole lot of doing anything other than focusing out the front.
And for you guys on the number 52 machine, this was your first top 5 on the season and your second consecutive top 10 run here to start this short track stretch. How do you expect you guys will run next week at Richmond? And it looks like you guys got some momentum on your favor. Do you expect to see this good run to continue? Can we see you up there trying to challenge for a victory next week?
I fancy the short tracks where the driver makes a difference and the attitude matters. And yeah, we're going to put this thing up front a little bit more. See if we don't have to ruffle a few feathers to get there. But it's all part of the game. I'd like to thank everybody at RSR. Overall, still a great league.
Absolutely. And unofficially, with the points being updated, you moved up to 7th in the points. So congrats on that. Still looking for your first victory on the season, I know, which would lock you into the playoffs, but you're in a good spot right now. Before we let you go, though, Sean, just want to give you a chance to say thank you to your sponsors and say hello to any friends or family. Who makes it happen for you on the number 52 machine?
I'd like to thank everybody involved. O'Reilly Auto Parts, teammates, Prestige Worldwide, Nick Silver, Keith Medeiros. They're a couple hot rods themselves. And, of course, you boys as well.
All right, Sean, well, congrats on your run tonight. You finished 3rd. We look forward to seeing you next week at Richmond on Monday night.
Thank you, fellas.
All right, that was Sean Casto, driver of the number 52. He finishes 3rd tonight at Bristol, had an incredible drive and gets his first top 5 on the season. Now, James, I believe you've caught up with a driver that's not exactly happy with the way his night ended. He dominated most of this race, but after some late race contact, Anthony DeBarro finished up in the 12th position, and I believe you've caught up with him.
Yes, and I am here with Anthony DeBarro after a really, really strong run for the majority of this race, led the most laps, and then had a late race incident with Daniel Everhart. Anthony, go ahead and take us through your perspective. Tell us what you saw happen.
I don't know. What can you say? I mean, everyone saw it on the broadcast there. I mean, I thought I did a slide job the corner before, and I thought that's what he was going to do, but we got to the corner, and I don't know, I ended up with a little engine damage, but we'll move on. A 12th is not too bad for how we've been finishing, the luck we've been having, but I'm just glad we had a strong run. We're going to be around all year, and we're gonna beat them with the results.
I know it's not the finish and not the points that you want out of this race with the car that you had, but knowing that you ran so well for so much of this race, can you take that and run off that confidence into Richmond next week?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my main focus is just reel off top 10s and then go on from there and build some points. I mean, maybe we'll catch a win in the summer sometime. And you gotta be lucky in these deals too. I mean, you could have the best car. I mean, Daniel might have been even a little better than me, but I mean, he could have passed me a little cleaner than that.
I know a lot of people make it happen and make your operation run really smoothly. So go ahead. Here's your chance. Go ahead and give your shout outs and your thank yous to everybody who made the number 96 car run so well this evening.
Can't do it without the guys at Boomtown Sim, Sean and Corbin. I mean, we work together and what we could do together to make the races better for us and more fun. And obviously, sponsor came on board, WinView Games. Everyone should check out their app in the App Store and the Play Store. It's pretty cool. What you could do, you could win a little money if you play your cars right.
Well, thank you, Anthony, for the time, and we will see you next week in Richmond.
Thank you.
So, Anthony DeBarro, disappointed after a really, really strong run, but the pace was there, Brian, and I have a feeling we'll see a little bit more from that going forward, especially in Richmond. A lot of drivers came out of this, I think, unhappy, and DeBarro is only one of them, but I know there were a lot more. And a lot of people that are going to be talking to each other over the course of the next week and trying to sort things out before we get to the 3/4-mile track in the capital of Virginia.
Oh, absolutely. And it's another track where these guys can settle the score that they have between one another. And this could be a very interesting race because of that. Watching to see what happens between Anthony DeBarro and Daniel Eberhardt. You heard him in Victory Lane. He said that he was expecting something to happen next week at Richmond. So certainly something we're going to keep our eyes on. And then these guys are going to Talladega in 2 weeks. And that's something that needs to be thought about just a little bit, because we're going to go from 3 consecutive weeks of running on a track that is no bigger than 3/4 of a mile, 2 of them being a half a mile. And then we're going to go to a track that's bigger than the 3 of them combined, where they're going to run 2.66 miles at about 200 miles an hour for probably about 90 laps or so. It's going to be wild.
Nuts, fast, wide, everything that Big Bill France Sr. had in mind when he built the longest track and the fastest track in NASCAR back in 1969. But we still have to focus on the little short track swing here, and that will conclude next Monday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, when we visit Richmond International Raceway for the 9th round of this 2017 Full Throttle Cup Series season presented by Gary Mercer Trucking. But we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight and go ahead and give our own thanks. So, for my colleague up in the booth, Brian Macklin, for our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, for John Abbott, Chad Cole, and all of the admins at RealSimRacing.com, and for Laura Lawson, Andy Kessler, and Evan Pasoko at LSRTV. I'm James Pike saying thank you for watching tonight's broadcast, and we will see you from the capital of the Commonwealth next Monday night.